Hello and welcome to Loaded Mag. I'm going to go straight away. I'm not going to be shy and saying we are 5 subscribers away from 1,000 subscribers. Go for it. If you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button, or go to youtube.com/c/loaded HQ. Get your friends, your family, your neighbors, your pets. I don't care. We need to get that 1,000. That's the opening tonight. A lot to talk about. We could talk for hours and hours and days with everything that's happened in the last few days. But we're going to keep it to one topic tonight, and we don't have a Davy tonight to play us. But I have spotted this, and I thought this will start us off nicely. Not sure who created that, but I liked it.
There's been some good ones on, hasn't it, Daz? I've seen on Twitter since there's been some really, really good ones. Some of our WhatsApp chat's been shared as well.
What's it? That
Mr. Bean one was funny.
One that Chris put on was quality. I love it.
Oh, the Leonardo DiCaprio one.
I love it. Love it.
I must admit, I like the Mr. Bean one from where he does the.
When he's getting the money out.
Yeah.
Oh God! So how are you all feeling before we start talking about the topic we're going to go with? How are you all feeling? Has it sunk in yet? For me, it hasn't at all yet. I think it'll only kick in when, hopefully tomorrow, when Bruce is gone. But what's your thoughts, lads? Go around the house, Richie.
Well, my head finally recovered this morning after Thursday's alcoholic intake. Because as I know, I'm nowhere near Martin's drinking ability. Bear in mind, he's drank pretty much every single second of the day since the takeover was announced. But I did sup quite a bit on Thursday, before the show, after the show, and it was stuff that I normally don't drink. So I was still feeling the effects of it yesterday. But not to be honest with you, it has started to sink in, and I think it won't really sink in completely until we've got a new manager in place, which will hopefully be the next week or so, which obviously one of the things we're going to talk about tonight. But lads, it's just, I think the thing that I've liked the most is now and especially talking to my son's been buzzing since the takeover was announced. He's as I think we showed you the night, they were sending pictures of Mbappe and the new kit and stuff like that, and it's just that buzz that's going around. It's stuff that one I think we showed it the other night, but not just. I think it's just the fact that I like the fact we can dare to dream again. The fan base is alive. We haven't really been like this since Bobby Robson and the Entertainers era. But it's I think I said now to one of our tweets the other day. We're on a roller coaster now, and it's just going to go up, and I just want to be part of the ride. And I'm glad we've stuck through the crap and the shit for the last 14 years, and now it's all going to be worth it. It really is, and I'm just so excited for what's going to happen in the next few weeks. Let alone God knows how many years. Do you know what I mean? It's just you can't. There's not even a time scale you can put on this now. It's just onwards and upwards from now, and one day in the near future, hopefully next couple of seasons, we might get our first bit of silverware that we haven't had since we won the Fairs Cup in '69, which was it's really, really hard to believe. But I think it'll be all of our first time seeing someone in a black and white shirt lift the trophy, but obviously excluding the championship trophy when we've won that. But we're talking like a major trophy of some kind. So there's just so much just to look forward to. You could go on and on, you know what I mean? But I'm passing around the house to Chris now. But there's just so much to look forward to. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, do you know what, Rich? You're absolutely right. It hasn't quite sunk in for me yet. I think Bruce going will be a big part of it. But for me, I think the moment it'll sink in for me is probably around 3 o'clock, 3:30 on Sunday. So you've got your pre-match build up. I just can't. I can't wait to. Obviously, I'm not going to be there, unfortunately, on the day. But I'll be watching from home in Liverpool, and I'm just going to be so made up. I can't wait to see what the pundits say. I can't wait to hear from fans pre-match. I can't wait to see who's getting announced on the day. Hopefully, we see. I know Kevin Keegan's been mooted to be in there. Invited back into St James's and possibly Shearer and other people, and the new owners are going to be there. It's just going to be amazing, isn't it? But yeah, I'm still kind of in a bit of a dreamland. It still hasn't sunk in for me yet. But once we start to see those changes, that will excite me. And also, I think somebody put a quote on Twitter before from Amanda Staveley saying about the training facilities being terrible. And I just thought, this is great. This is great because we all know they're terrible, and that's going to be high on their list. And just watching the club grow, both on the field, off the field, the city, it's hard to kind of put into words, but I'm absolutely over the moon. But yeah, I think Sunday's going to be the day for me when when I start getting really excited.
Cheers, Chris. And I see people are asking us questions about certain managers, and that's the topic we're going to get on to next. Pete, let's go to you next.
Relief is still my feeling. Relief, not just that the takeover is done, not just that Mike Ashley's left, but actually relief that, from now on, regardless of what happens this season, that we'll never have to really worry about relegation again. Not really ever having to worry about where our 40 points are going to come in the season. I'm not saying we're going to be challenging for the league as of next year. I don't think any Newcastle fan are saying that, but the worry and the scouting the fixtures in June to see where we're going to get our points from, that's the thing that kind of gives me that sort of relief that we don't have to worry about that. Now, we do have a season still to focus on, and I'm sure we'll talk about that as the show goes on. But, I'm not worried. I'm actually, very, very relaxed about this situation. And I'm very relaxed about going into Sunday, whether we win, lose or draw, because we're on to a better future now. And yeah, I think, the one time that it will really sink in for me is hopefully what we see on Sunday, in that I think what should happen, and whether it does or not is another matter. What should happen is that I think that at least one of Alan Shearer or Kevin Keegan should be with the Sky guys, Neville and Carragher, to talk about the club. I mentioned it earlier on after the takeover was done at the back end last week. I said one of those boys, and I said Alan Shearer at the time, needs to be on that panel. We need to now have a Newcastle representative, and the quicker that's done, the better, because it's about time that we started to have a voice for our club, and who better than Kevin Keegan or Alan Shearer or both. Now, I expect both of them to be in the stadium. I expect both of them to be unveiled alongside our new owners. I think our new owners need to come onto the pitch and get that applause from the fans. And I think if that happens, I think it'll be at that point that it really sinks in that our new owners are here. We've seen them live. They're on the pitch. They've welcomed the fans back into the stadium. That, for me, is where it really, really sinks in that this takeover has happened.
Cheers, Pete. Someone wake Martin up there.
Yeah, sorry, I'm tweeting. I was busy tweeting. I'm probably still not in a good state. I've been drinking for 3 days solid. I think the last time I did that, I was probably about 21. I had a few, obviously, with yous on Thursday night. Probably the most enjoyable show I think we've ever done. The relief and just being with you guys, I think, was an emotional night. I watched it back a couple of times, kind of pretty much me, Richie and Pete crying like little girls, all bloody show, most of it. But
that's why the views are so high.
It is why the views, yeah, it's a sympathy vote. Then kind of did a little bit of work, bailed out early on Friday, went straight back out on the razzle till about 2:00 Saturday morning. And then I was back up and back on it on Saturday and finished drinking at about 5 this morning. A few hours in bed and then back up to clear up the mess. But Yeah, it still seems quite surreal, even though you're reading stuff and you're seeing, Amanda's statements, and I really enjoyed the pictures of them turning up at St James's and talking to fans, and they certainly seem to be PR wise, they know what we want, and I think having seen more communication in 2 days than we've had in 14 years, I think makes me feel that we have got a winning team going into control at St James's Park. So I think it's going to be a mint ride. I think, like everybody, I've seen stuff, both positive and negative on Twitter. Not between the fan base for once, which is nice. We are united for a little while. I'm sure there'll be disagreements as we move on. I agree with Pete. I'd love to see Shearer or Keegan or somebody back as a guest of honor on Sunday. I think it will be really nice to see King Kev. As much as I like Shearer, I think the way he was treated and everything else. I think he should be etched into a job in whichever way, even if it's working in the catering department. I think he should be given a job for life, and brought back and be treated as the hero he was and he still is. So I'm hoping they do that kind of stuff. Player wise and everything else, I'm not bothered, lad. It's just nice. It's nice to hope. It's nice, as Pete said. Hopefully, we can. We don't do the typical Newcastle thing, which is take over new owners and then we go and get bloody relegated this season. I can't see them letting that happen. I think there'll be massive investment in January. Manager wise and everything, I know we're going to get onto. Again, I'm fairly laid back. I mean, Bruce certainly. Craig Hope's article there today. The Telegraph are just reporting it now, about 15 seconds ago, popped up on their timeline. Bruce to be peddled tomorrow. Ashley, I'm never going to say that name again. Stavely is meeting Bruce at the training ground tomorrow at 10 a.m. So I would imagine that will be the bullet fired, I would think. So hopefully we'll get all of that. But we'll see. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think when I've had a few more hours sleep and things kind of start to roll this week, I think that'll be really good. And yeah, Paul's just putting up there, get rid of the paddling pool and the wheelie bins.
Keep them as a
part
of history.
No. Yeah, we could put them in a museum or something, maybe. But it's
from wheelie bins in the paddling pool to the FA Cup trophy or something next to each other with the space to be
or just somebody in a wheelie bin holding the FA Cup.
Some stadium tour.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think it'll be good. I was reading some of her press from meeting with the staff at the club from Friday. And I think it was, dead good to read. One of the first things she said about the investment is, we got to do something with the training ground. It's a mess. So happy days. I think all those good things will come. For me, as I said, players, managers. Yeah, look, would I take a superstar player right now? Would I take a Coutinho or somebody? Yeah, fucking absolutely, I would. But I'm more interested in seeing the investment in the club in all areas, from youth level, foundation, women's game, stadium. Whether we turn it on its head, whether we have to move. Everybody has different opinions, but I'm sure they'll do the right thing. I think they're very, very sensible business people and they're in it for the long term. So I have faith. Looking forward to it. That should be a great ride.
Cheers, Mark. And I'm going to stop with the comments for a second and I'm going to turn off my banner because I want to go straight into the topic.
I feel sick watching Pete drink. Sorry, lads.
Okay. So we are the richest club in the world. And the richest club in the world needs a world-class manager. So who are you going to have? But before you come with an answer, I want to bring up the odds. Now, I took these odds from this morning when I put this together, so they probably have changed since. But yeah, at least we have a list to talk around. And it links to some of the questions we've had about different managers. So some people asking about, know anything about a certain manager, and others, what do you think of, let's say, for example, Graham Potter. So let's look at the list. Maybe I'll go first. Just to quickly go first. I might say a bit more at the end. But for me, when this dream happened, we talked about this dream already. I always thought Rafa is the one I'd love. But that ship has sailed, I'm afraid, with Rafa. He's now at Everton. He doesn't break contracts, so I can't see him coming back to us. I'd still take him for sure, but I can't see it happening now. So. Then I was thinking about it today. Who do I want? And I was thinking Conte or Mancini were the two that jumped off the page for me of what they've done in the past. And Mancini has been through it before with Man City, and Conte has kind of unfinished business in the Premier League, and he's out of work, I believe, as well. And apart from those two, yeah, I think I'm going to be happy with whoever the consortium pick. I think they're going to pick someone that'll bring us on for at least the next 3 years, not just this season in the short-term measure, but planning for the future. I did see Gareth Southgate's name mentioned somewhere, and I said, "No way! I don't Gareth Southgate, no way." But for me, that's the two I'd that would jump off the page if it was possible to get them. And I know it is a bit of kind of damage limitation to try and keep us in the league, because that's the most important thing apart from anything else. But it's doing it'll give whoever comes in, give them a bit of time to assess what's already there, who they want to keep and who they definitely want to get rid of, and bring in mix it with the director of football, deciding what players they want to bring in, and as long as they sign up to the way of working from the start, I'm happy to go with the consortium pick. But Richie, we'll go to you next.
I think just before we move on, I just want to, Daz, if you can just get rid of the pick for a minute.
Oh, there was breaking news, do we?
Yeah, we've got breaking news, yes.
Okay. I didn't spot that at all. 1 second. 1,000 subscribers. My God.
I think just
thank you, everybody.
I think just on behalf of everyone, part of Lord and all the lads here, and even other guest presenters we've had on, and all the guests we've had on, and to everybody in the chat, obviously, we're not a YouTube channel without you guys watching us, and obviously the fact that you're watching now, the figures that we've got watching live now is great for a Sunday night when there's
amazing,
there's other stuff on TV and stuff like that, but it shows obviously you must be enjoying the content we're putting out, and we've got a lot of things lined up which we can't say at the minute, but we're just going to go onwards and upwards like NUFC are going to from now on. So once again, from me, from Daz, Chris, Pete and Martin, thank you so much for helping us to get to 1,000, and
thank you.
As I said, onwards and upwards. So anyway, Daz, back to the managerial merry-go-round. Yes. So I think if you put those odds back up, there's the two that stand out for me would be Conte and Mancini. Mancini went through the takeover with just after Mark Hughes with Man City, has been through it before. Conte available. He's a good defensive coach. He did well at Chelsea as well. He can be a bit temperamental, as we've seen by a few of his videos on YouTube this week. But you know what I mean? He's I can fully see why he said what he said. But you know what? Sometimes you need a personality like that in the dressing room to give some people a kick up the arse. Do you know what I mean? So I think the other one that's actually not on there, and we were having a private discussion about this in a WhatsApp chat last night, who always gets mentioned but never ever seems to get put in the betting odds for some reason. He's been where he's been for a long time. He's done a fantastic job there. Bear in mind that probably the third biggest club in this country. But I would love to see us probably have the ambition to go after someone like Diego Simeone. Really, really good defensively, which is something we definitely need this season and something to build on going forward. But he's tactical now, so second to none. And the fact that he's won the league numerous times over Barca and Real Madrid, two big powerhouses in Europe, not just Spain, in Europe. I think he hasn't really had a lot of money to spend sometimes compared to Barcelona and Real Madrid as well, and he would have the respect of a lot of players. Luis Suarez, very temperamental character, but he seems to have been able to curb him since he's joined them this year. I just think he's a really good shout that never ever seems to come up. But There is another one that I think we would we'll discuss possibly at the end as a complete left field, but I think we'll get everybody's idea first, and I'll throw the curveball in at the end.
Cheers,
Dad,
Rich.
could you just get that graphic up for me, mate? I mean, I know who my two are anyway, but I just want to
No, Chris.
consider.
No. Here you go.
Cheers, mate. Cheers. Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet, lads. I mean, for me, I'd love to see Conte come in. I think Conte would just be absolutely outstanding, and I think the fact that he's currently free, so not that perhaps money's an issue, but he's not tied up with any other club. I'm sure he's probably been keeping his eye on his football. He probably knows who he'd like. He probably knows who he'd go for. For me, I think Conte is just outstanding. He would definitely be my number one. In terms of other people, me number two probably be Brendan Rodgers. I think he was quite unlucky at Liverpool. He's then gone and proved himself in Scotland with Celtic. I know it's only Scotland, but then he's come back to the Premier League and he's done a great job at Leicester. I know they've been slightly on the decline of late, but I don't necessarily think that's down to him. I think that I just think Brendan Rodgers would be somebody who I'd like to bring in and he'd take us forward. He's been there, he's done it, and I think he would be a good option. I mean, Rich has just mentioned Diego Simeone there. He's probably up there with Conte for me. So if we were to get someone like that, it'd be great. I know a few people have been mentioning Potter from Brighton, and don't get me wrong, I was calling for the likes of Graham Potter before this takeover, but without being disrespectful to him, I think we're past that now. I wouldn't be going for someone like Graham Potter now. I think we've got to go for that top level manager. I'd love Mourinho. Mourinho was there as well. I don't think he'd break his contract with Roma. He might be one for the future. Mancini, same with Italy. I can't see him walking away from Italy. But yeah, they would be my ones. It would be Conte, Rodgers, and Simeone if available, as Richard said there. They'd be the kind of level of manager I'd be going for. But equally, I trust the new owners, and whoever comes in is going to have a fantastic opportunity, and they're going to be afforded plenty of time from the Newcastle fans, which I think is a great thing.
Before we go to Pete, Chris, I think we should go back at the end after we go around the house. We'll look at the left of field kind of suggestions as well from the list and see what.
Yeah,
because some people are asking about them. So Pete,
yeah, and in the chat as well.
Yeah, I'll remove my Helpless Reach 2K banner now because I've had to update it. But let's go to you, Pete, and see what you think. Who you having?
Well, I can tell you who I definitely wouldn't have, and there's a lot on that fucking list because there's a lot of shit on that list. You can get Andre Villas-Boas off there for a start. Xavi, another one. Gareth Southgate, 100% is not on my list, and neither is Unai Emery. There's a number of others that I won't go into, but I wouldn't go for Steven Gerrard. I know there's been a lot of talk about him. I have a lot of difficulty with a manager like Steven Gerrard that one is still very early into his career, and two is still massively associated with one big club in the Premier League in Liverpool. I find it very difficult for him coming to somewhere like Newcastle and having the same sort of impact. I think he's been primed for being the replacement of Jurgen Klopp at some point. So I don't see him coming to Newcastle. However, there are a couple of managers that are on there that interest me. Whether I think they'll come to us or not is a different matter. And Antonio Conte is at the top of that list. He's a terrific manager. He is a manager that wins things. Now, he's not a manager that will stay around very long because he doesn't traditionally stay around long at clubs. 2-3 years, he'll come in, bang, 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 win what he needs to, gets out, does the same elsewhere. He's that type of manager, but it's whether he sees the vision of a long-term project. Because look, we're not going to go and win things this time next year, or maybe even the year after. Has he got the patience for that? I'm unsure about that, and I think that's where maybe the sticking point will be getting him to sign on. It would be the same for Roberto Mancini, who has got better as a manager since he won the Premier League at Man City. He's actually got better, and you can see that in the way that Italy play, the style of football they play. He would be perfect, but he's looking to win the World Cup next year. You know, is he going to want to come, you know, to us right now? Money or not is a question mark. I do like Joachim Low. I have to be honest. I do like him. I think he's a terrific manager. Hey, if he brings the trophy, we can pick his nose and put it in his mouth what he wants. If he's bringing us the trophies, that's just the sidewinder for me. But look, he's a World Cup winner, and he's a terrific manager. Tactically, technically, he's got an ability to bring players in at the top end because he's got that reputation as well. I think he's one that we've not really talked about at the moment. Obviously, recently, left Germany. So just put that back up again. I think there was one more that I had on that list.
I'll have it for you here.
Was it on that list? Yeah, sorry. And then there's Brendan Rodgers. I've been having a couple of chats with a few Leicester fans, a couple of my mates who are season ticket holders there, and they are scared at the thought of us taking Brendan Rodgers. They are literally scared of the thought of it, and it's not because they don't think that we could take him. They know we could take him. And if we only rewind a year and a half ago or so, it wasn't that much of a problem potentially enticing him away to Arsenal, and he was close to going at one point, or certainly put his interest out there. So he'd be another one that I'd look at. All the other ones on that list, not really for me. And I know it's weird saying that with us got Steve Bruce in charge. But the reason why I say this is because this appointment is huge. And I've got to take my hats off to the owners here for how meticulous and how precise that they are being at the moment. Because any other new owner would have just gone and sacked Bruce the day that they'd brought the club or the day after, and they would have had a manager in by this weekend. But what they're doing, they're just taking stock of everything. They're sitting back and they're just gathering the thoughts and opinions of everybody around them of where to go next. And I think they've done that really, really well. And I think it's not really talked about enough how they've handled this at the moment. And I think they understand that the next manager that comes in is massive. It could well be that Graham Jones takes the game on Sunday, and it might not even be for another couple of weeks until we get the manager. But if we get the manager, it's very, very clear that they want a manager that's going to go long term, that's not just going to see us out to the season. They want a manager that's going to come in and build and grow with the club. So this is huge. So it's going to be really, really interesting. Not going to put my hat on anyone in particular. I've just threw my hat in terms of one or two that I thought were quite interesting. I know that one or two have mentioned Arsene Wenger as well. I think he's finished now in management. He's sitting on the board of UEFA. He's very, very comfortable there. So I don't think he'll be coming back into management anytime soon either.
Cool. Cheers, Pete. Are you putting in your CV yourself?
You know what? I would love to, but I want us to win things. For that reason, I'm out.
You heard it here first. Don't put your money on. Not a wink wink. Pete for the job. Martin, who are you having? What are you having? Guinness, is it?
He's on mute.
I am on mute. Yeah, God, I'm having a mare. I'm not. No, Jesus, there's no more drink. There's one man on that list who is the only man for this job right now, and that's Mike Bassett.
Well
Put a throw back up there, Daz, again. Sorry. Not Martinez. Not for me. To complete the, if I was going with heart, and I wanted to complete the whole Sir Bobby Robson piece, I'd love to see Mourinho. I'd love to see the little magpie come back, and I think we would adore him. But I'm just not so sure he's the main man anymore. I'm not convinced. I think his time is done. If I was looking at the likes of Potter and stuff, Eddie Howe, Gerrard, no, not for me. If I was looking at a manager slightly above that in the Premier League, I would be looking at Thomas Franks from Brentford. If I wanted to take somebody, I think he would be really, really good for us. My current favourite Premier League manager, listen, I'm not bothered about Rafa. I don't think he'd go from Everton. I think the consortium obviously love him. Look, they could pay him what they wanted. And I still don't think, I think he's a fairly honourable guy to a degree. So I couldn't see him walking from Everton, even if they splashed the cash. So I'd like to see Brendan Rodgers. I think Brendan Rodgers will be a really, really good appointment for us. I think the problem with the likes of Mancini, with Joachim Low, with the Palo, or any of these guys coming, they'll want megastars straight away. They'll want the Galacticos. Simeone is doing it in, producing results on and off the field in Real Madrid's backyard, but he's on 30 million a season. So, to pay somebody that amount of a salary to get him across to Newcastle, he's going to want to have Galactico players and big star players virtually straight away. We can't do nothing to January. So the coach that comes in has to be able to be somebody that can get the best out of these current players in the next 2.5 months, with a notoriously bad run of games in December. So for me, it's got to be experienced, Premier League experienced, and somebody that, I think from a crowd perspective, listen, as long as Steve Bruce is gone, I don't think as Newcastle fans we'd actually give a shit who comes in. You want somebody good, but I don't think now is the time for a massive ego superstar. Conte, longer term, I would love him. I would love Mancini longer term, but I just think at the minute we need to, and I think the consortium will be, I think they need to be sensible. I think there are some good managers out there, but we need to get up that table, lads, because again, we were chatting before on, let's not do the most Newcastle things of all seasons, which is go and get fucking relegated. So
do you know what, Mart?
Interesting.
Just to add in what you're saying, mate, it's an incredibly important appointment, isn't it? And I think we definitely need someone with Premier League experience, in my opinion. I think you need someone who can steady the ship, knows the league, knows a lot of the players, and I think that is something that I would certainly take into account. So some of the names that we've mentioned, like you've said there, Brendan Rodgers and Conte, and they're managers who know how to win Premier League games, and I think that's what we need. I saw on the list as well, and some people were talking about it. The likes of Zidane, whilst he would be out of this world, there's always that element of risk, isn't there? Because managing in Spain,
and he won't speak English.
Yeah, this is it. Managing in Spain and then managing here are two different kettles of fish.
He's only managed one club though, and this is the thing.
Yeah,
and if you look at those players were outstanding players. There wasn't really much that
he didn't have to coach too hard. Yeah,
he didn't. It was a case of managing egos, and that's always been the question mark with Zidane, which is why I think why he's not managed another club, and that's why I think he's been heavily linked with taking over from Pochettino at PSG, because they are another team that are full of individually quality talents, and it's about managing egos rather than actually coaching. I don't think that, in my opinion, that he's someone that we consider. But I just wanted to throw out to you guys really quickly, because Diego Simeone is a really interesting topic, and I like it. I like his personality as a manager. He's very passionate. He's very determined. He's dogged. He's everything that we would want in this current Newcastle team. But his style of play is quite negative at times, and it is very, very defensive.
he's very much a 1-0 man.
Yeah,
and does play a lot of 5 at the back at times.
How would we, as a fan base, over a long-term period of time, accept that? Because Atletico Madrid do, for the reasons that Chris said, because they don't spend a lot of money, although João Felix at 100 million is a lot of money, but they've only really done that once. But it's like, would we accept that over a period of time, playing that defensive style football? Would we accept that? Would it be something that annoyed us after a while?
I was thinking, sorry, Chris, I was going to say, the only thing I agree with you is, is really defensive. I think that's something that would be ideal for this season, because obviously he's going to have to work with the players he's got until January at least, so he'll be able to sort them out to a degree. But you mentioned he doesn't spend a lot of money, but I think that's the slightly different thing he would have at Newcastle. He's going to have the opportunity to potentially have more to spend than he's probably had at Atletico Madrid. So I think we would be a slightly different kettle of fish. So he might be able to have a bit more, attacking flair like he's possibly wanted to. And perhaps he's just built more defensively because it's what he's had to do. But I think if he came in and we were getting 1-0 results and it moved us up the table this year, and then he was perhaps able to be a little bit more flamboyant next year, the year after, I think Newcastle fans would be patient and accept it.
No, do you know what, Rich? Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth, mate. Absolutely. I think certainly for the foreseeable, if you get a caliber in of manager of someone like Simeone, I think we'd be absolutely fine with it. Will we still feel that way in 3 or 4 years when we've got 3, 4, 5 superstars on the pitch and we're playing very defensively, and we're all thinking that we're more than capable of getting 3 points, and perhaps we only pick up a draw or we get beat? Will people feel differently then? I don't know, but as we all know, it's a results business, isn't it? If we're getting the results and we've got those few flair players and we're performing consistently, regularly, and picking up points and competing, I think fans would be forgiven of the style of football. I mean, don't forget, we've been playing under Bruce, who's got no style whatsoever. And when we had Rafa recently, Rafa's incredibly defensive, but we absolutely adored him because I think we all felt safe, we all felt comfortable because we knew that Rafa knew what he was doing. So if you brought in someone like Simeone, I don't think that would be an issue. But again, it goes back to what we were saying about the lack of Premier League experience, because it could be this season for me, and I'm sure it'd be the same for you lads and all the viewers at home. It's all about staying in the league, getting to January, adding a few high-profile additions and making sure we stay in the league, and then having a big summer, getting prepared, turn the squad round, and go really try and do something next season.
Yeah, but those players in January for me, I want to see proven Premier League. So for me, I'd want to be looking, and I think we said it on maybe it was the Friday show. It could have been maybe it was me talking to myself the other night. Who knows? But we were saying, for me, it's like I'd like to go for players like Maddison from Leicester. I'd like to go for James Ward-Prowse. Somebody put up there Chris Wood from Burnley to go alongside Wilson. I'd take him, Premier League proven. Okay, he's not massive 20 goals, but I think he'd be good in a partnership. Tarkowski from Burnley, another one to go into defence. So for me, they're the kind of players I think we should be targeting in January. I think they'll want to make one marquee signing. Certainly all chatter and all money was on Coutinho this afternoon being one of the first signings in January. And I think they will. I think they'll want to make they will want to make a statement, I'm sure, because that's what Saudi will do. But I think we need to mix that up with a bit of good, solid reliability, a bit of youth in as well. Somebody like your man at Norwich, Todd Campbell. Somebody like Conor Gallagher from Chelsea. Players like that you can mix a bit of youth and a bit of experience, and then maybe 1 or 2 decent marquee signings. But going back to that manager piece, you want somebody that can manage some egos, because somebody needs to go into that dressing room and either get the best out of Shelvey or get rid of him. And the same with Lascelles. They need to get him back on form or bring somebody in. So
it's safe to say, lads, everyone has a different opinion on this question, because everyone in the chat is going for different people. Even Mike went there with Harry Redknapp for the end of the season. there's multiple, and I think George, George said Keegan to the end of the season. There's a lot of different names. It's going to be interesting who actually gets the nod. And just on Coutinho, Martin, I did read Craig Hope, the email, saying that didn't come from his paper. It came from an online version or something, and that it wasn't what he had heard. But if it happens, he'll take the credit for it. Yeah. But I don't know. Shall we look? Because I'm still going through the comments here and trying to read them as I go through. Should we look at? Because a few people asked a question about. Some people mentioned about Lucien Favre. Now I don't know an awful lot about him, but he's gone to 5-2 now in the odds. These odds were what I took from this morning. Anyone that joined us late, but anyone know anything about him? I think someone asked the question earlier in the chat.
Who is it? Who did you say that? Sorry,
He's this.
Lucien Favre.
Yes.
Lucien Favre. Yeah. Well, apparently the talk is of obviously a sporting director coming in above him, which is your man, Ricardo,
Ralph.
whatever. Yeah. But apparently the two of them, but apparently the two of them don't get on. So apparently that I can't see that working. But Keith just put in the chat there. Apparently the Paulo Fonseca has emerged as the latest potential candidate to go in there.
It's all over the shop.
Yeah.
It will be, lads. It will be. It's like we can't predict who's going to be the manager. You've got every single different journalist giving you a different manager that's coming to a club, or giving you a different player that's going to be signed. We have no idea, and we as a fan base need to get used to that, because this is what's going to happen now. We're on paper the richest club in the world, and with that comes the fact that we can actually sign anybody, and that's not just a manager point of view, that's a player point of view. But Martin's touched on a really interesting point, actually, is that this is the reason why I didn't feel I could pick one particular manager to take on this club, because there's a lot of talk about Ralf Rangnick coming in, formerly of Leipzig. I think he's currently at Lokomotiv Moscow at the moment. He is a fantastic director of football, sporting director, whatever you want to call him. And traditionally, at these top clubs, okay, and I use Man City as an example here, when they got Tiki in from Barcelona, when he left as a sporting director or director of football there, it seems like a very similar situation. Now, if you're wanting to really push forward as a club, you need to sign the sporting director or the director of football first, because they in turn will then appoint the manager that they want to work with. So you've already mentioned about Lucien Favre, that they don't get on. So for me, if the truth is that Ralph's coming in, you don't get Lucien Favre, because if they don't get on, that's not the right appointment. So it's going to be one of them that, for me, I'm more looking to where the director of football comes in first, or the sporting director, before the manager, because they really traditionally should bring the manager in. And they're the ones that are going to work with the manager to basically redevelop the club. Like Ralf Rangnick's scouting network is unbelievable.
Yeah.
More importantly, for us as a football club, he is an attacking-minded sporting director.
He opens up a massive amount of doors
that will attack, that will
sound of that,
chances, that will entertain the team that he works for. That's his DNA. That's his identity. That's an identity that I can get on board with, because we want attacking players. We want guys that are going to entertain. We talk about the era of the entertainers and how much we enjoyed that and being a part of that and seeing that week in, week out. We as a fan base, that's our identity. We want that back. And he, for me, is the guy, alongside potentially Luis Campo, who there's talks of he's rejected talks with us or not, who knows. Those two as a potential director of football, sporting directors, are the type of signing that we need to make first after we get Bruce out of the club.
Yeah, agreed.
So no one thought that Bruce should be given an extra chance. No, I didn't think so.
Gabby Bonlaho thinks he should be.
I want to go back to Graham Potter, because there's a few people at the start of the comments were picking up Graham Potter. And Chris, I think I'll go to you for this, because you first mentioned Graham Potter about I'd say 6 months ago. What's I know, okay, we're in a different situation now, but what's your thoughts? Let's say it was given to Graham Potter. What's your thoughts?
Do you know what? I wouldn't be opposed to giving it to Graham Potter, and I think if you look at the job he's done at Brighton, I mean, I got levered for mentioning Graham Potter, but every time I was watching Brighton, they were playing good football, and we saw it last season. Graham Potter and his Brighton side absolutely plays us off the park. And I must have said this about 100 times, but in case anyone hasn't heard it, Brighton last season in the expected goals tally were 8th in the league. So they were creating the chances, but they just weren't putting it in the back of the net. And we've seen already that the start they've made this season, they're right up there. So Graham Potter, I think he would be. I wouldn't be angry if we got Graham Potter. Don't get me wrong. There's far worse, especially on that list. Graham Potter certainly isn't low down on my list, but I just feel that I'd want to be going for someone a bit more high profile. However, the owners may be looking at it and thinking, do you know what? We want someone to steady the ship. As Martin was saying before about us bringing in Premier League ready players, we could be doing it in like a transition where we get rid of the players who, we've had since the Championship that need moving on. We then bring a higher caliber of Premier League player in so that we have a steady top 10 Premier League squad and add in a few, stellar signings, a few marquee signings, if you like. Yeah. And gradually build so that, when you look at our bench, you think, bloody hell, that's not a bad bench. That, if you had the likes of Tarkowski, James Ward-Prowse, those kind of players readily available within the squad. I wouldn't want to play James Ward-Prowse week in, week out, I've got to be honest. But he's certainly an upgrade on what we've got. And you can't go, from Jeff Hendrick to like a Phil Foden. You can't do it. And it would be a step up. Yeah, it's got to be a gradual thing.
There's an upgrade.
Yeah. And then in 2 or 3 years' time, we might look at it a bit like what Ashley did with Houghton. Ashley felt that we needed somebody else to come in because he felt that Houghton had reached the top of the ceiling, albeit we may not have agreed with him. But that's the kind of vision, or that's maybe what the owners are looking at. Because if we go out and go for the Conte, as Pete said before, you can't say to Conte, oh, yeah, in 4 or 5 years' time, we're going to be great, because he'd be like, well, that's fine. But what about for the rest of the season? What about next season? What about the season after? We don't have the facilities. We haven't got the depth in squad. Okay, we've got all this money, but you can't sell 18 players and bring in 25 players who are all absolutely fantastic. And that wouldn't be the right way to go about it anyway. I think it's got to be a gradual thing. So maybe somebody like Graham Potter would be a good appointment for the for these next 1, 2, 3 years. But me personally, I would, if we're going to go down that route, I'd be going for Brendan Rodgers. Conte's my dream, but Brendan Rodgers is up there. But similarly, he's a manager who will bring us on and can work with those kind of players, and he'll probably have that realistic chance of signing those better quality Premier League players that we don't have.
I think following on from what you're just saying there, we've got to remember that we can't run before we can walk, sort of thing.
No.
And I think that the Potter example that you've just given there is great in one way, because he would have the experience of managing in the Premier League. And I believe that a lot of the English players that we, like we've mentioned, Ward-Prowse, you've got someone like Yves Bissouma and Tariq Lamptey and Lewis Duncan. He's working with them on a day-to-day basis, which would walk into our team now and strengthen that team anyway. And you wouldn't have an issue attracting that caliber of player straight away to the club. Whereas later down the line, when you're starting to move up the table, you're starting to challenge at the top end of the table, is Graham Potter going to be the man who's going to be the one who's going to be able to pull, the players that you start getting talked about with Man City and PSG? Is Graham Potter going to have that pull to those? That's the only concern. And I think one of the reasons why I wouldn't mind going for Conte, because he's been in the Premier League, he knows what it's about. He's been there with Chelsea and won things. He's free at the moment. But a little thing that I think I mentioned briefly on our chat yesterday was, you look at the Italian national team at the minute is obviously it's just won the Euros, and there's some really good players in there who they work well as a team. And you look at people like Juventus, who aren't the team that they were. He's obviously got a good relationship with players from the club, having coached there before. And yes, it might. I'm thinking like experience to come in, and people might laugh and shoot me down. But I mentioned in the chat yesterday, you look at Bonucci and Chiellini. Chiellini and them have really got very, very short contracts left. They might want a new challenge now that Juventus is coming to they aren't the team that they have been the last few years. They're literally having rotation games. They're not playing even sometimes in the same team at the minute. That could be someone where you could bring in. Yes, you'd probably pay them more wage than you would have to pay for them straight away because they are on. You'd probably get 1-2 years best out of them at tops, but they would bring leadership and charisma. Aaron Ramsey, there's another one at Juventus who would be linked. Not a bad shout either. I just think that there's people who in that Italian national team who would buy into what Conte's would want to bring to the Premier League, have an experience with them over there. But one player that I think is someone you could possibly pull now, who you could build a team around going forward. Possibly definitely not January. You're probably looking at next summer or the summer after. If Conte was there, I believe we'd be able to get him. Would be Chiesa. I think he's a phenomenal player. He can play anywhere along the front line, and I just think that he's one of those players where you could build a team around him. He's young. You wouldn't pay. Our prices are going to be inflated now anyway because of obviously our owners, so we'd probably have to pay a bit more than what he's actually worth. But I actually believe that that's someone we could be aiming at who's not a Galactico as such as yet, but has the potential to get to that level. And having someone like Conte would possibly let us get players like that in 2 years or so.
Do you know what's interesting, Rich, about what you've just said there? And I was watching a few videos before. They were like interviews that they did with Ralph Rangnick. And one of the things that he was saying, and this goes back to, again, what Pete was saying about the director of football being such an important appointment. He was talking about bringing players in. And I'm sure he said it was when he was at Leipzig, and he said, I told, because the management was saying, what am I doing wrong? Why aren't we kicking on like we want to? Why aren't we getting promoted? What's the issue? And it was just something simple, but I thought he's so right. Like he was talking about, and you've just mentioned it there, about bringing players in who are on their last contract. So he said they were signing players who were 28, 29, and they were after that one big payday, and they were coming in, doing a job. He said, but there was no passion, there was no hunger, there was no desire. And you've mentioned there a couple of younger Premier League players who want to go to that next level, who want to be at a top club and want to kick on and progress. And that would be my only concern with signing the likes of, Chiellini. Chiellini would, if we got him, it'd be great, don't get me wrong, but bringing in a player like him, he would see it as a bit of a last payday. Whereas Chiesa, who I think is only, 22, 23?
Like 22, 23, I think.
Yeah, so bringing someone like him in who wants to go, push on and get to the next level, they're the kind of players that you want to be signing. You don't want any journeymen. You don't want any people who think, I'll get fantastic wages here at Newcastle and, I'll play for 3 or 4 years and then I'll get off. You want players who are coming in thinking, oh my God, this club could be huge in 3 or 4 years. I want to impress. I want to make sure I stay in the team. I want to win trophies. I want to win a title. That they're the kind of players that we should be looking for, and that's the kind of director of football that we need.
It's a project. Exactly what you're saying. It's a project. You want players to come in, and this is what Man City and PSG have done really well, is that they've sold players to come to the club, like Ibrahimovic, Cavani, players like that at PSG. We did the same. They did the same with Aguero and Yaya Toure and players like that, Vincent Kompany. And they were built a project of something to build, and you would get players like that. And that's the thing. That's where I would probably look away from the likes of Chiellini and Bonucci, and maybe look at the major links at the moment is Koulibaly. Just turned 30 years old. He's been desperate for a move, but he's been basically priced out of a move from Napoli for like 2 years. Now that's something that's not an issue for us now. I think we'll probably need to wait for the summer.
I think he'll be the landmark signing to go for, Pete.
Yeah.
Well, I would personally go for someone that I think we could get in January that would be just as much as a big signing, and I think we could get him. And I think he would be someone that would be excellent to play alongside Koulibaly. And not a lot of people have talked about him really, but he was linked the first time we were about to buy the club, and that's John Stones. John Stones at the moment is not playing for Man City at the moment. He's barely getting a kick. Now he was a big part in us getting to the Euros final, and he was terrific. But if he's not playing and he's an England international, I think 50 million gets you John Stones, and we build a team around him. And then you bring someone like Koulibaly in the summer, and there's your centre back partnership with alongside the likes of Tarkowski and maybe one other as your centre back four, and there's your centre back four set. You know, we're looking at the attacking players, and I'd love to, you know, bring lots and lots of attacking players in, and we do need someone to play alongside Wilson. But as we've proven this season, we need to shore up at the back, and we need a solid defence. And I think bringing the experience of someone like John Stones in, who's only 26, and got years ahead of him, and bringing those type of players, like you've mentioned, that can see a project and want to work with the project and know that they're a part of it and not just going to be a bit part player. They're the kind of signings that you can get. And actually, you know, whereas Koulibaly would probably be around the same sort of price, he probably wouldn't be released until the summer because Napoli are just being really, really difficult. But there are players there that you can look at. I look at another guy, and he's not playing in England at the moment, but he's played in England before, Renato Sanchez, as a centre midfielder. For him, at Lille, he is too good for Lille. He's too good for French football. He is outstanding. He just had a bad loan going to Swansea. He should have never gone there. He was too good for that club. But he's ready now to play it in the Premier League, and he wouldn't cost a lot of money. And he's exactly what we need in that midfield. He's a box to box. He's got bite. He can travel with the ball. He can score a goal. He has got exactly what we need. And the one thing that we haven't talked about more so than anything is the fact that we have to let players go. We've got a full 25 rebuild squad. So for all of the owners talking about players coming in January and signing, it's music to our ears. We're so happy about this. But we know that players are going to need to get out the club. You know, Dwight Gale, Kieran Clark, you know, Hendrick, for example, you know, possibly one or two others that play regularly, maybe even Fabian Schär. He's not barely kicked a ball this season. Players like that are going to need to leave for us to be able to replace them and get players in. So it's going to be a really busy and interesting January. But like the players that we've talked about, Chiesa is one of the top players in world football at the moment. He's unreal. To get him at Newcastle would be an absolute dream.
Sorry, Chris, just to bring it back to where we are, because at the moment we could go for hours talking about different players, but at the moment we were linked to 3 new players every hour on Twitter and in the papers and everything. And I know there'll be an article written tomorrow from that great suggestion that Pete has given about John Stones. Watch out! It'll be something that'll be on some Team Candy. Write it up tomorrow. But yeah, so we are who we are. We need to sack Bruce. We need to bring in the director of football, and in turn have them be able to work with the manager that we bring in. And we need to be able to do something between now and January to get a few points and build on that with bringing in players in January. But we have to stay up. That's our main goal. That's our only goal this season, and everything else around it will take care of itself. We're going to be back talking about when Bruce is gone. We're going to be back talking about when the new manager comes in, and we'll be talking about all the other players that people have put in the chat as well. There's at least about 150 names mentioned in the chat of potential players. So we've got plenty to talk about. Who would have thought it? We don't have to be complaining every couple of days or every week. So we've plenty of fun ahead. And I know people are also talking about the training ground. What would you do? Would you build on it? Would you improve it, or would you move somewhere else? People are talking about St. James's Park. Would you improve it, or would you move to build another stadium? And the question is, what would you do when that's been improved upon, if they're upgrading St. James's Park? And I don't mean just a lick of paint. I mean turning the pitch and building on extra seats and so on and so forth, because these are all these things we've got to consider in the weeks, months, and years ahead. But so we've got plenty to talk about. I think we're going to keep it to the hour, lads, and we've kind of gone through most of the comments. Probably missed a few at the end that I'll bring up as we're closing out the show. But thanks for everyone for joining us. Thanks everyone for subscribing and getting us to 1K subscribers. We are going to be back because we've got plenty to talk about these days now. And so we'll be back talking about players, managers, and everything. But so thanks everyone for joining us. And it's goodbye from me.
Bye for me.
See you guys.
Now just to find the video. Good night.
Not me.